Hey everyone, ready to ace that payroll manager interview?
I bet.
We're going to dive deep into this article from Workable.
Okay.
It's called 10 plus proven payroll manager interview questions plus answers.
Sounds intense.
But this deep dive is going to be your secret weapon, not just for answering those questions,
Right.
but for really understanding what this job's all about.
Cool.
So let's start with a couple that might seem easy at first.
Right.
Like, what payroll software do you use?
Mhm.
Or are you familiar with HRIS systems?
Mm-hmm.
Seems pretty straightforward, right? Like they just want to see if you know your stuff.
Well, yeah, they want to see your technical skills.
Right, yeah.
But it's more than just being able to list off a bunch of software names.
Oh, right.
Imagine you walk into that interview and you know their systems.
Oh,
Inside and out, you've done your homework. You
uh-huh.
understand their specific needs.
Okay, that's impressive.
So it's less about I can use any software
Right.
and more about I already know your software.
Okay, that's a good tip. Now, this next one's interesting. An employee claims a coworker in the same position has a higher salary and demands an explanation.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
How do you even handle that?
Well, they're definitely looking at your conflict resolution skills there, but also your legal awareness.
Oh, okay.
Think about it. Are those salaries even justified? You know, based on experience, performance, all those factors.
Yeah.
And then how do you explain all that to someone who's probably pretty upset
Yeah.
without, breaking confidentiality?
Right, right. The article suggests saying something like, I'd be happy to have a confidential discussion about this.
Yeah, that's a good starting point.
Why is that confidentiality part so important?
Well, you absolutely cannot discuss one employee's salary with another. It's a huge privacy issue.
Yeah.
Could even get the company in legal trouble.
Yeah.
So by emphasizing confidentiality, you're showing you understand those boundaries.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, here's one that really gets you thinking. You realize there's a stark gender pay gap in a specific department. Would you leave it be or bring it up to HR?
Whoa.
This goes way beyond just payroll.
That's a huge red flag question for employers.
Really?
Yeah. It's not even about giving the right answer. It's about showing you wouldn't hesitate to do the right thing.
Okay.
Reporting that kind of thing isn't optional.
So you have to report it.
You have to.
And think about the problems a company could face if they don't address pay equity issues.
For sure.
Losses, reputational damage, it could cost them a lot.
And documentation is so important here.
Okay.
If you discover this, you need to document your findings and report it to HR formally in writing.
Got it.
That protects you and ensures it's addressed properly.
Makes sense.
Here.
All right, let's shift gears a bit.
Sure.
This question really tests your analytical skills. How would you create a report that forecasts next year's payroll expenses?
Getting strategic.
This is more than just number crunching, right?
This is showing you understand the bigger picture.
Okay.
Forecasting payroll expenses isn't just about plugging numbers into a spreadsheet. You got to analyze the current data, anticipate changes like raises, new hires,
Right.
and use the right tools to model different scenarios.
Wow.
It's about thinking ahead, planning strategically.
So you're not just managing payroll, you're shaping the financial future of the company.
Exactly.
That's impressive.
And it shows you understand how payroll impacts the overall financial health of the organization.
Okay. Now, everyone makes mistakes, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what about this one? You made a mistake in the payroll and an employee was underpaid. How do you address it? Fix it immediately or wait until next month's payroll?
The article says immediate action and transparency are best. You contact the employee, apologize, explain how you'll fix it quickly.
Okay.
But-
Is there more to it than that?
Well, what if the underpayment is significant?
Oh, yeah.
Like it's causing them real hardship.
Right.
You might need to issue a separate check right away.
Right. Makes sense.
But if it's minor adjusting, the next payroll might be more practical.
So it's not always a simple fix-it-now situation.
Right. It's about being flexible and considering the circumstances.
And I imagine your communication skills are being tested here, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you explain that error without losing their trust?
Transparency and empathy are key.
Yeah.
Acknowledge the error, take responsibility, and make it clear you're doing everything you can to correct it.
This really highlights that payroll isn't just about numbers.
It's not.
It's about people's lives.
Exactly. It's a big responsibility, and you got to approach it that way.
Okay, so the article also mentions the FLSA.
Oh, the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Right, with a question about overtime pay for non-exempt employees.
Yeah, that's a must-know for any payroll manager.
It's not just tracking hours, it's understanding the law.
Right. The FLSA sets the overtime rate at 1.5 times the regular pay.
Okay.
But that's just the beginning. There are tons of federal, state, even local regulations
Wow.
that can affect payroll calculations.
So you're not just a numbers person. You need to know the law.
You do.
That's a lot to handle.
And things change constantly. That's why they often ask how you stay up to date on new labor regulations.
I bet they want someone proactive, not just reacting to changes after they happen.
Absolutely. Professional organizations like the American Payroll Association are invaluable.
Uh-huh.
Certifications, training a network of experts,
Okay.
and industry publications, online resources, even podcasts like this one.
Hey, that's us. See,
Okay.
already learning something valuable.
Exactly.
But seriously, showing you're actively learning and staying ahead of the curve, that's huge.
It goes beyond just staying compliant. It's about finding ways to be more efficient and improve processes.
Oh, interesting.
The article even mentions a question about streamlining the payroll process.
Okay.
That's where you can really shine.
So it's not just about following the rules, it's about making things better.
Exactly. Maybe you found a bottleneck in timekeeping and implemented a new system that saved everyone time.
Oh, wow.
That kind of initiative is impressive.
It shows you're thinking critically, not just following instructions.
Right.
Now, one last question I found interesting. It's about explaining financial and insurance details to employees simply.
Making it understandable.
That's got to be tough.
It's about communication. Payroll can be really complex,
Yeah.
and your job is to make sure employees understand their paychecks and benefits.
It's like translating a foreign language, but with numbers, deductions, acronyms.
Exactly. This question is about empathy and communicating complex info clearly.
It's amazing how much this article covers.
It is.
It's not just processing checks. It's ethics, legal knowledge, strategy, problem-solving communication.
It's a whole world.
And it's always changing with technology and new regulations.
Constantly evolving.
This deep dive has been eye-opening.
I agree.
Before we wrap up part one, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
What qualities would you prioritize in a payroll manager and why? We'll dive into that more in part two.
That's a really good question to think about. You're the CEO. You're trusting someone to handle all your employees' pay.
Right?
Make sure they're following all the laws, manage all that sensitive financial data.
Yeah.
Who are you going to pick for that? What really matters most?
And that brings us back to those behavioral questions.
Mm-hmm.
The article has a few that are all about seeing how you work under pressure,
Okay.
how you solve problems, and how you keep up with all the changes in this field.
Makes sense.
One that stood out to me was, how do you deal with deadlines?
Oh, yeah.
Because payroll is all about deadlines.
It really is. You can't miss those paydays.
Exactly. People are counting on those paychecks.
For sure.
I'm guessing this question is less about a specific answer
Probably.
and more about showing you can handle the
Yeah.
stress,
Yeah.
that you're organized and you know how to prioritize.
Exactly. Have a story ready about a time you handled a really high-pressure situation.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you had to process payroll for a ton of employees while the office was being renovated or something.
Oh, wow.
Everyone's working remotely, chaos everywhere. Yeah.
But you stayed calm and got it done.
That's a great example. And speaking of staying on top of things,
Yeah.
there's that question about how you learn about new labor regulations.
Right. Keeping up with all the changes. We
Uh-huh.
talked about that.
Yeah, besides the American Payroll Association, are there other resources you use? I'd probably mention industry publications, online forums,
Okay.
maybe even podcasts about payroll and HR trends.
Good idea.
Yeah.
It shows you're really engaged and learning.
Right. It's not just a job, it's a field you're interested in.
Exactly. And that commitment to continuous learning is crucial.
Yeah. Especially with something as complex as payroll.
Absolutely.
Okay. The article also mentions a question about streamlining the payroll process.
Ooh, streamlining.
This seems like a chance to show off your problem-solving skills.
It is. Talk about a time you saw a problem, came up with a solution, and implemented it.
Okay.
Did you find a way to automate a manual process?
Oh, interesting.
Or improve communication between departments?
Okay.
Those are the wins that stand out.
Mhm.
So it's not just following instructions. You're making things better.
Exactly.
You're not just a cog in the machine.
Sure.
You're making the machine run smoother.
Right.
All right, let's tackle another tough one.
Okay.
This one's about dealing with difficult employees.
Oh, boy.
How would you handle an employee who's constantly complaining about their pay?
That's a test of your communication skills for sure.
In conflict resolution.
Yeah, you got to listen to their concerns, address them professionally and empathetically,
Yeah.
and explain the company's policies clearly.
And sometimes you have to tell them something they don't want to hear.
That's true. How do you do that without damaging the relationship?
That's a good question.
It's about finding that balance between being firm but fair.
Okay.
You stick to the policies, but acknowledge their feelings.
Right. Sometimes it's about setting expectations up front.
Yeah.
The article has a question about explaining payroll policies to new hires.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Seems simple enough, but is there more to it than just handing them the handbook?
I think so. It's about making sure they really understand.
Okay.
Explain things clearly, answer their questions, patiently be available for follow-ups.
Should be helpful.
Be helpful. Set the tone for a positive and transparent experience right from the start.
Now let's talk about technology.
All right.
Payroll is getting more and more automated,
It is,
and that's got to come up in the interview.
for sure.
There's a question about the benefits and challenges of using payroll software.
Okay.
This is your chance to show you understand how tech is changing payroll.
It is. Talk about how software can streamline things, reduce errors, improve accuracy,
Okay.
but there are
Yeah,
downsides.
there can be. What about system glitches,
Oh, yeah.
data breaches?
Right.
You
Yeah.
still need a human to oversee everything.
Okay.
Plus, technology is always changing, so you got to be adaptable.
So you're not just an operator, you're a problem solver and a learner.
Exactly.
Those seem to be big themes in this article.
They are. It makes
Yeah.
sense. Payroll is so dynamic.
It needs that mix of technical skills, people skills, and always staying ahead of the curve.
All right, let's shift gears again.
Okay.
Here's a question that really puts you in the hot seat.
Uh-huh.
What would you do if you found a discrepancy in the company's payroll records?
Whoa, that's a tough one. It's testing your integrity and how you handle sensitive stuff.
Okay.
First step is to investigate. Make sure you understand what's going on.
Okay, and then what? Who do you tell?
Well, that's where knowing the company's policies is crucial. You
Uh-huh.
might report to your supervisor, to HR, maybe even an auditor, depending on the situation.
And this is another example of why documentation is so important.
It is. You need a record of what you found, when you found it, and what you did.
Okay, thorough documentation protects everyone.
It does, in case there are any legal or financial issues later.
All right, let's wrap up this part with one last question from the article.
Okay.
This one's about your career goals. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Seems simple, but it's a chance to show your ambition and commitment to payroll.
So it's not just, I want to be a senior manager.
Right. It's about showing you've thought about your path and how you'll grow.
Okay, talk about learning new tech, taking on more responsibility, maybe getting certified.
Exactly. Show them you're not just looking for a job, you're looking for a career.
That's a great point.
Mm.
And it brings us back to that question we asked earlier.
Yeah.
What would you prioritize in a payroll manager?
Mm.
Think about the skills, the knowledge, the personality that makes someone great at this.
Okay.
We'll explore that more in part 3 of our deep dive.
Wow, we've really gone deep, haven't we?
Yeah. From technical stuff to ethical questions, strategic thinking to clear communication. It's clear the payroll managers do a lot.
They do. It's a multifaceted role for sure.
So let's get back to that question we asked earlier.
Okay.
What qualities would you prioritize in a payroll manager?
Good question.
If you were hiring, what would you be looking for?
For me, it all starts with integrity.
Okay.
They're handling sensitive financial info, making decisions that affect people's lives.
Right.
You need someone you can really trust.
Trust is huge.
It is.
And not just honesty, but that strong ethical compass we talked about.
Right.
Knowing they'll do the right thing even when it's hard.
Absolutely. And along with integrity, I'd want a deep understanding of all those payroll rules and best practices.
Okay, so a real expert.
A subject matter expert, someone who stays up to date on all those laws that are always changing.
So they're the go-to person for the company, able to answer any question?
Exactly. But it's not just about knowing the rules.
Right.
It's applying them in real life.
Yeah.
And that takes critical thinking, problem-solving skills.
I'm sure there are tons of unexpected challenges and tricky situations.
All the time. They need to be able to think on their feet and come up with solutions.
Resourcefulness is key.
It is. And don't forget communication.
Oh, right.
They'll be talking to employees at all levels, explaining complicated payroll stuff,
Yeah.
and sometimes delivering bad news.
That's tough. So they need to be able to explain things clearly, but also be empathetic and easy to talk to.
It's a tough balance.
It is. And one last thing.
Okay.
I'd want someone who's actually passionate about payroll.
Oh, yeah.
Might sound strange, but you want someone who enjoys this work.
You do. Someone who's not just punching the clock, but really wants to get it right.
Right.
Make sure everyone's paid accurately and on time.
Because at the end of the day, that's what matters most.
It does. And that dedication and passion is contagious.
Okay.
Sets a good tone for the whole department.
So to recap, we're looking for integrity expertise, problem-solving skills, clear communication, and a passion for payroll.
That's it.
It's a lot.
It is. But if you find someone with all that, it's
Yeah.
a real win for any company.
Well, I think our listeners are ready to find that perfect candidate now.
I hope so.
They've got a much better idea of what it takes to be great at this.
And I hope they've learned some things that will help them in their own interviews.
I'm sure they have. This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
I really appreciate your insights.
My pleasure. It's always fun to talk about payroll.
And to our listeners, best of luck with your job search.
Good luck.
Remember, preparation is key.
It is.
And don't forget to show that passion for payroll. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.